The elevating of wealth is in the lineage. Being a part of a patriarchal paradigm for over 5,500 years, going further back to the transitional threshold when the matriarchal paradigm began to collapse and the patriarchal paradigm began to rise. In that transitional period took place around 12,000 years ago, which we will not see that documented in our high school history textbooks because a matriarchal paradigm doesn't exist, especially in a global global civilization, only in sort of minor like villages or tribes, but not in a global sort of stance. Wealth is generated in the lineage, and wealth of the future will be generated in the lineage. So the lineage in this patriarchal paradigm has been heavily aggressively attacked and destroyed, particularly for minority groups. And with that, during that process where a lot of lineages were, all of our lineages were being deconstructed in many ways in the Dark Age. And that's when our wealth, our status of wealth as this planet actually lowered, right? For example, the Sumerians were dealing in their sort of math, they were dealing with trillions, right? And these are the Sumerians, supposedly lesser intelligent than us today, right? So that showcases that they had an understanding of a higher wealth than we today, modern people, are just now tapping into trillions. Like, I only started tapping into the trillions when we think of like the debt, the debt of my country being trillions, that type of thing. That's the only time I've ever really used that word, trillions. I've never used that in math at all, in any college or high school math class. But these Sumerians were using trillions, big numbers. So that's evidence that we as human beings had an understanding of a higher wealth and an ancient period on this planet Earth. So the Sumerians, what makes them quite different from us modern times is that we think of present day Iraq, which the Iraq and the whole Middle East have this pretty ingrained in them about the lineage. And that's what the Sumerians had ingrained, similar to the ancient Egyptians with lineage and the wealth being a part of the lineage, right? So the whole word lineage, it comes from an ancient Egyptian understanding that would lead into the Roman understanding of Roman lineage, and then, medieval legacy, right? The patriarchal legacy, right? The father's name being passed down from son to grandson and so forth. And all of that sort of generated at we think of the Middle East or ancient Egypt with Africa, with the lineage being an extension of the tribe over many, many centuries and thousands of years, looking at oneself from a view of hundreds or thousands of years. And the ancient Egyptians had that type of broadness of understanding, and the Sumerians as well, the Middle Easterns, had that sort of broadness of understanding that I am connected to centuries, thousands of years of myself, right? And that's a lineage, and all of that basically gathers knowledge and resources that we need to be able to have that higher wealth. We talk about the trillion, and that's something that's just going to continue. We're going to continue to work with these big numbers in the future of this planet, because as soon as we start to become more star beings, intergalactic, right, space voyagers, we're going to have to deal with big numbers, because imagine having other planets to deal with, right, having other human beings, even, you know, a whole civilization on other planets of human beings, that's going to be big numbers that we're dealing with. And whenever you're dealing with space in any form, you're dealing with big numbers, right? So the Sumerians understood about, or they had some sort of understanding in their spirituality that this technology that they were given, the technology of the mind, the technology in various forms, was given to them by the star beings to help them advance, right? And that technology can be a sort of algebra, geometry, it could be a technology in the form of Kundalini yoga or some sort of yogic science or some sort of a knowledge on the body mechanics and the whole technology of the body, mind, the physiology. And we as human beings, when we work with money, we see it as a problem, right? That's a common belief system that we have on this planet, the strife, the struggle when it comes to money, right? Because in this patriarchal paradigm, again, the lineage in many ways has been deconstructed. And during this establishment of what I call hierarchical repression of prosperity, the hierarchical discriminating of money, right? And the sort of hierarchical withholding of money, right? And during that whole sort of establishment that we know today, a lot of lineages basically, you know, there was no sort of circulating of that, what we call prosperity. It was no longer, right? It was just as this hierarchical discrimination and this hierarchical sort of repression and the hierarchical withholding became the sort of prevailing relationship that we have with money, right? And that's what we call it's a problem or it's a block, right? There's so many words out there: money block, money issue, problem. So when we begin to rebuild and restore the lineage, that is when we're going to start to be working with prosperity. You need knowledge and resources to work with prosperity. And you gather that over a period of time. You gather that through experience and being on this planet for a certain amount of time. Now, there's some people who are born, they have the green thumb, right? The Midas touch. Some people are born and they just automatically have the knowledge, the resources. They know what to do because they've had their old souls, right? They've been around the block. They're like born and they're like 6 years old and they're already doing their thing, right? Because they've been here. They may not have, this per se the lineage, but they've had it in some incarnation of themselves. They've had it, right? And when we're talking about the future of this planet, we're talking about the resurrection of prosperity on this planet. That seems quite, even saying that, it seems like quite revolutionary to say, because it feels like it goes against a lot of these patriarchal sort of establishments when it comes to how we as human beings, who are not a part of the elite group, quote unquote minorities, right, how we're going to relate to relationship. It's already been decided for how our relationship with money will be in this life, right? And those who, again, have the knowledge, have the resources, are going to be the ones who are resurrecting the prosperity within their lineage and within their own intellect. And when we think about, again, this future of this planet Earth, we, according to the mystic, the mystic study and the mystic ancient wisdom holding, that we have extincted ourselves already as human being in a species on this planet. And when we think of the money of the sort of problem and yet just like almost desperate need that a lot of people have, I think people need to understand that it is the lineage that we bring about the fruitfulness of our future, not of the accumulating. Because a lot of that we think of, the accumulating, the me, the fulfilling of my own ego, that type of thing, that in many ways is a part of our sort of extinction. That kind of mass sort of immaturity that we have, that a lot of times is correlated with money or currency, right? The through different words in different periods on this planet Earth, right? And the low maturity when it comes to that, right? We can, in many times when we degrade our sort of our virtues and values many times to get this glory over it. And I think as we start to really relearn our relationship with money from a perspective, you could say ancient Egyptians or this sort of Middle East, before we talk about the patriarchal paradigm, as well as including that patriarchal paradigm, we're going to start to have a relationship with money that's going to be more about based off of craftsmanship and based off of an integrity that actually is going to make us a lot more emotionally mature and a lot more creatively expansive. And that is how we're able to heal beyond these extinctions that we've had in different forms on this planet that aren't money is not the reason, or currency is not the reason for it, but the emotional maturity is how we're able to evolve beyond that pattern, that relationship. Like, we live on a planet that you're going to have the poles are going to, the axis of the planet may, change somewhat, right? You're going to have these sort of catastrophes. That's just how it is. But what really, as human beings, has kept us safe and has kept us in the knowledge, regardless if we're extinct, and rebuild ourselves, is that lineage that gives us that emotional maturity. And a lot of people don't feel like they're a part of anything on this planet, right? A lot of people feel really like unfulfilled in the family and then all of that, and it's just where we're coming from as a planet, right? There was this dire need to claim it all, right? Before other people are going to claim it all, and then there's not enough, and then that kind of survival of the fittest, right? That led to mine, and gotta take yours and destroy you, and all that kind of very masculine imbalance that we've had to face, that led to this insecurity with money, very, very insecure, right? Where we feel the wanting of it, but not of the understanding of it, and the sort of higher functionality of it, and the purpose of it, right? A lot of times it's the functionality of money for us is just these type of consumerism, right? But as we begin to, go into the future, we're going to start to understand that our money, currency, has everything to do with the generating of higher creativity on this planet for the future, to have more emotional maturity and then make better choices. than the past.